And
are they scorching?
Are live. I can't believe training camp is over.
Well, it's not really over.
It's over.
It's not over. Well, I mean,
it's never over. Nothing is over.
Nothing is over until we decide it is. Was it over when the Germans bombed Pearl Harbor? No, Germans, forget it. He's rolling. And it ain't over now.
It ain't over.
Because when the going gets tough,
the tough get going.
Exactly.
That's right. It is Orange and Blue today. We are presented by Champ Honda. It is Cecil Lammey. It is Andrew Mason, and it is the final day of fans out at training camp, and so much to get to today as the Broncos are preparing for the San Francisco 49ers. And Mace, I feel just like yesterday, we have a jam-packed show.
When don't we have a jam-packed show?
There's some days things are a little lighter than others.
Well, I mean, at this time of year.
At this time of year, we don't.
Like last month, a couple months ago.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Not now.
There'll be some light shows in February. We'll be putting some of the February shows in the can like we did some of the late June, early July shows. I think.
Right.
Yeah.
More what ifs coming. But today, this team wraps up the fan portion of training camp with kind of a lighter day, Mace. After yesterday it was so hot and Russell was on fire and everyone's playing well. Today it wasn't a total step back or an awful day. It just was a little bit lighter out there.
Yeah. Well, it was a game prep day. As I pointed out in my social media recap of the day, it actually resembled a regular season practice more than a training camp practice, because usually what you see in training camp, it's first team versus first team, what they would call Broncos on Broncos. This time, however, this was working the first team against backups, effectively a scout team, mimicking some of the 49ers tendencies and ideas. And so that was the change in this practice. It very much was about getting nominally ready for this game on Saturday night against San Francisco.
Yeah, the preparations begin for this game, and we've got a plan for Javonte. That's coming up. But your question to Sean Payton, I think, was one of the most important questions, and I'm glad it wasn't a repeat question. Anyway,
oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, he got asked twice about Dwayne Washington.
Yes, hot Dwayne Washington talk. And I thought Coach was a little nice on the second question. I would have just been like, I already answered that, dude. Pay attention.
Yeah, he actually did answer it a second time. It was a short answer, but he did answer it. I thought he'd just say, I already answered that and move on. I mean, it was one of those moments. Can I say the reporters? All right, Chris Thomason of the Colorado Springs.
Good reporter.
He's a good reporter, was covering the Vikings for a long time, covered the Nuggets before that as well. And yeah, he kind of walked into that one, asking about Dwayne Washington. I think he kind of admitted he wasn't listening, which I would say that's not something you want to admit in a press conference, that you're not listening.
I do feel bad. I'm kind of an aloha Mace. Don't agree with that. Anyway, I did say, what is this, amateur hour? And Chris heard me, so I feel bad.
Chris,
said that? Yeah, I said, what is this, amateur hour?
Oh, boy.
And Chris heard me. So, Chris, I apologize. But, yeah, I mean, pay attention, baby. Like, the hot Dwayne Washington talk. But your question about repeat performance, this was one of the most important questions of the day, because the way you set up for Coach Payton is guys did it in the first game against Arizona.
Let's name some of them.
Okay.
Jaleel McLaughlin.
Elijah Garcia.
Yes.
You know, these type of performances, how important is it for them to show up again?
Validated, stack performances. We talk about stacking days in training camp, but it's also about stacking games. And here's what Sean Payton had to say.
And Sean Payton, sorry, I wasn't quite ready.
Roll that beautiful bean footage.
Now I'm ready.
Yeah, listen, it all gets evaluated. We talk about it twice a week. We update it, how they're doing, and you begin to formulate opinions. And someone asked the other day, is it more game? Is it more practice? And I'm honestly, I think it's the whole body of work. You know, when we were in school, we had quizzes and we had tests, and the game would be a test. But, you know, if you messed around on a bunch of quizzes like I used to, then the test was important because you didn't do well on the quizzes. It's all part of the equation.
I love that, Mace, and especially the way he wrapped that up. It's all part of the equation.
Yes.
Quizzes and tests.
Although I'd like to know about his quiz preparation methodology back in school, back in the day.
Right.
There's there's another layer to peel off from that answer, I think, but that's for another day and another time.
Yes.
By the way, I was the someone who asked the question earlier this week, same vein, but not the same question about weighing the preseason games versus the practices. So,
but this is
you can
weighing
see what I'm getting
preseason
at.
game versus preseason game. That was your question today.
Yeah,
You
well,
did ask that before.
Wanting to see it again.
Yes.
Like, okay. And I talked with Elijah Garcia for a while today, and Elijah talked about how whether it's a good game or a bad game, you've got to get past it. Last week was an exceptional game for Elijah Garcia with 2 sacks. It was a thrill for him. His parents actually flew in from San Antonio to watch him play in the Phoenix area last week, which also another thing that reminds you, just because the games don't count doesn't mean they don't matter. For some of these guys, they matter more than anything. And when you've got parents flying in just to see their son play in a preseason game, that tells you how much it matters to a player like Elijah Garcia. But here we are, we're talking about him. We weren't really talking about him a couple of weeks ago. Now, I think you can legitimately say another good game stacked on top of last week. And I think Garcia is going to stick on the roster as the 5th or 6th defensive lineman. I mean, I think right now, Mike Purcell ends up staying on NFI into the regular season. You've got DJ Jones, Jonathan Harris, Zach Allen. Then I think you get beyond that. You're looking at Matt Henningsen, Tyler Lancaster, the nose tackle, and Elijah Garcia rounding out the group.
Right.
If you're doing it today.
And I talked to Jonathan Harris today. We'll have that clipped up for other shows, but like I asked him about like the Deshaun Williams thing. So here's another one, because we had Deshaun Williams who's moved on, and then Harris is like stepping up, and it seems like Garcia is a young Harris or a young Williams.
It's the next link in the chain. I think Deshaun Williams begat Jonathan Harris. Maybe Jonathan Harris begat Elijah Garcia, and just guys that maybe they take a little bit of time. They work their way in, and then they find their niche on the defensive line. And also, this is part and parcel of a 3-4 defensive line. Inevitably, you've got some guys that are just pluggers. Although I think Garcia has more potential than this. His frame and his length are very impressive for a defensive lineman. He's just still raw. But he's fascinating. I'm going to write more about him at denversports.com. He talks about how pass rushing, you express yourself through pass rushing. I thought it was really interesting to dive into that. Elijah Garcia he's a really good dude to talk to, and he's really intelligent, but he's got almost an artist's sense of the position, like expressing yourself through sport. That's not something you usually hear in football, right? That's usually something endemic to basketball or soccer, kind of that individuality. He says there's that for rushing the passer as well. Really interesting guy.
Very interesting. Yeah. And a player on the rise, a player that's still very raw, but a player that we've already seen. You get another game, he's making the team. Like he doesn't, and I'm not saying 2 sacks. He doesn't have to get 2 sacks, but he has another strong performance, which we both anticipate he will. Now that decision is made. And that's the great thing about camp. It is a collection. It is everything. It's not just one thing, but it's, can you show up every day? Can you be consistent? Consistency is excellence. And then do you perform when it's time to take the test?
Well, consistency is everything. I mean, if you're all over the place, how are you going to be trusted? You have to be consistent. You could say for somebody like Albert Okwuegbunam, he needs to be more consistent if he's going to stick to a roster spot. The door's not closed for Alberto. If he can come out and have a big game on Saturday night, I think that's going to say a lot for his chances. But I think he's got an uphill climb right now.
Yeah, he certainly does. Repeat performance for Jaleel McLaughlin, who is the talk of camp today. I think he might have been the star of the day, him or Jonathan Cooper. Speaking of consistency,
guys who are doing it every day,
overall
those two players are probably, if we made an all camp team or like
Cooper's the MVP.
All camp top 5, Cooper McLaughlin are on there.
Yeah.
But Coop's the MVP in terms of the consistency. That's what I think separates him from Nick Benito.
Yes.
Is the consistency and also the work against the run as well.
Not that Benito's fallen off or guys are figuring him out with his now multiple moves that he's stacking.
He had a nice pressure today.
But it's just Cooper is there all the time. All the time. There's amazing talent.
There's a reason why on the algorithm right now in terms of how they're prioritizing it, you see how they're being used in practice. Jonathan Cooper is the first guy up behind Randy Gregory and Frank Clark. And frankly, pardon the pun, not intended, would it surprise me at all if we get into the regular season and Coop maybe gets a few snaps from that would have otherwise gone to Frank Clark? That wouldn't surprise me at all here.
No.
Coop has played that well.
Right. If Jonathan Cooper was your starter for whatever reason, we'd be like, great. And he's a backup.
The question is, what's Baron Browning's role going to be when he comes back in? They'll find a way. They'll find a way to get him out there because he's too talented.
Mm-hmm.
But it may not be simply slipping back into the role that he had before.
Oh, no, not at all. Things have changed for Baron Browning. And hey, that's what happens, guys. Wally pipped, right? Did I get it right?
Wally, very good. Old baseball reference.
Baseball reference.
Now
for
tell
Mace.
me, do you know who replaced Wally Pipp in the lineup?
No, I do
that's
not.
The story.
Okay.
It's Lou Gehrig, as in ALS, sometimes called Lou Gehrig's disease.
Right.
Yes. And then Lou Gehrig set the all-time record for consecutive games played, which was then broken by Cal Ripken Jr. back in 1995.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So that's the significance of it. Wally Pipp was a mainstay in the lineup, and then Lou Gehrig came in, and he didn't leave that lineup for well over a decade.
Yep.
Pretty remarkable.
It is remarkable repeat performance. Do we have anyone else we'd like to highlight in that? Maybe a Jerry Jeudy. And by the way, Jaleel McLaughlin, we got off track with Jaleel. Back on track. More first team reps today, everybody. Jaleel McLaughlin is getting first team reps, and we'll get to the plan for Javonte in just a little bit. But the plan for Jaleel isn't waiting until how much was left in the fourth quarter when he finally got on the field.
What was it? The drive started about 4:46.
Yeah. So finally we see Jaleel McLaughlin. Our friend Ryan Harris is like, "Where's McLaughlin?" And then finally we get to see him, and it's great.
Okay.
I think it'll be a little sooner.
Based on what we've seen this week in practice, I think he's going to be out there substantially sooner.
First quarter?
I think he'll get a rep in the first quarter.
Woo!
They've moved him up the speed dial a little bit, to use an old Seinfeld reference.
Yes.
I think we'll see him pretty quickly.
And the great thing is about this, it's him. Like, it's him. He's done it against the third teamers. He's done it against the second teamers.
But we saw plays today.
The carry today.
Yes.
I think it was his first carrying team.
When they were still going full speed.
Yes.
Because they did dial it down in practice. But early on, there was a run-intensive period. They were going full speed. And it looked exactly as it did when he was going against the threes.
It was drawn up well.
Mm-hmm.
It was executed well. Offensive line gave him a hole, and he was gone.
Mm-hmm.
All the guy needs is a crease. You give him a hole, and you're dead.
Yeah, but
you're done.
He's 5'7", and he makes himself even smaller going through that crease. It's like watching a bolt of lightning go through. It's pretty amazing. Like I think good things are in store for this young man.
Yes, and unprompted, Sean Payton at his press conference today compared him to a Reggie Bush in just a change of pace type of way.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we are Jaleel McLaughlin supporters. We have been from day one.
Yeah. Weren't we the first?
We were.
Yeah.
And I'll go Marco Polo. I don't care. But it's fun, though, Mace, because we're like proud papas, right?
Mm-hmm.
When we see Jaleel, and now everyone else is talking about Jaleel.
And it's like, yeah.
It's like, well, you know,
if you watch this show, you knew.
Could have said something about him in May, you know. It's like the Jonathan Harrison thing.
We did sneak a few things in during OTAs and mini camp.
If you could read the code.
Yeah, we did kind of make a few.
Man, what a great day from Mike Anderson.
Gosh. The problem is they got 2 38s.
I know.
And sometimes with all the injuries at safety, you're seeing that other 38, Devin Key, out there with the ones from time to time. By the way, a dude who needs a good game on Saturday, speaking of safety, JL Skinner.
Yes.
He's got to flash it.
Yeah, he does. So we'll see. And that's the great thing about the preseason, because you can change the narrative. If you've been okay in practice, you weren't good in the first game, now you can be better in this game. Right. You know, Delaren Turner-Yell, I think, could use another strong performance. And I haven't talked to Ryan yet, and I will, but like, he didn't have a great first game. He had one play where he blows up the play and then misses the tackle on the very next play. Like, that's not a great game. But a Delaren Turner-Yell needs a better game. There's certain players out there that we're looking forward to seeing them perform better that we believe in. A Quinn Miners could use a real good game. You know, a Ben Powers could use a real good game. Is Garrett Bowles going to play? We weren't told that he wasn't going to play, Mace.
Question is how many snaps, but yes, I mean, I would imagine he's going to play.
Okay. Out of the
Although-
offense's 24 snaps, the first team, does Garrett get all 24, or do we see Cam Fleming in it left?
I think maybe they rotate that around at some point. They shuffle the deck a little bit.
Okay. And Puzlewski, am I pronouncing his name right?
Palchevsky.
Palchevsky.
Alex
okay.
Palchevsky.
Was getting right tackle reps today.
Mhm. The guy out of Illinois, who actually now I'd say has a chance to stick on the 53.
Yes.
Probably a very borderline between the 53 and the practice squad. I was asked this morning on the Players Club about players that are undrafted who have a chance to stick. And unfortunately, I didn't mention Palchevsky, and I should have. The others I mentioned were Jaleel McLaughlin and Nate Adkins.
Yes.
Nate Adkins definitely has a shot to be
A
on the
week
53.
ago, you and I looked at each other during practice, like, he can make this team.
The dude's making plays.
And it seemed like not necessarily outlandish, but we just recognized it. And I was standing next to you and we go, he can make the team.
Mm-hmm.
And then over the course of the week, it's been like Nate Adkins, Nate Adkins, Nate Adkins.
Yeah.
He's been making plays, everybody.
He's stacking days. It's really all you can
Swink
ask.
asked, how did Jaleel escape the draft? Several reasons. One, some people thought he was overworked.
Well, when you set the all division record for rushing yardage, 8,100 yards, and obviously there's the benefit of, COVID season in there, etc. When that happens, I think a lot of teams crossed him off the list and said, too much wear on the tires.
Yeah, he's used
Not
up.
enough tread yet.
Mhm.
Tread left. There are some teams that will not take a running back who has above 400 college touches
Right.
nowadays.
I think Ricky Williams might have changed that, or Chris, or who's the Michigan back that had the 50 carries in one game? It wasn't Chris Henry, it was somebody else. But anyway, Jaleel or Deuce Vaughn.
That Tamanga Biaka Batuka way back in the day.
Well, Biaka Batuka had a lot of work too.
Yeah.
Edward asked Jaleel and Deuce. Deuce is Darren Sproles. Jaleel is Philip Lindsay. So stylistically, they're different.
Except Philip Lindsay
with hands.
He can catch the ball. He's a plus player in the
with
passing game.
great hands, not just dump off hands, like great hands. So I think they're just different players, because Darren Sproles is different from Philip Lindsay with hands.
Mhm.
So Deuce Vaughn, who was spectacular for the Cowboys, is different from Jaleel McLaughlin, who can be that weapon, can be part of that Joker conversation. And is he Ty Montgomery? Is he Reggie Bush? Is he somewhere in between? Like, we're fixing to find out.
Yeah, they'll adapt the role for him. Now, one of the reasons why he'll get plenty of work, as we mentioned in the sidebar there, the plan for Javonte Williams. Starters are going to go 20 to 25 plays. Javonte Williams, according to Sean Payton, will go about half of that.
Mm-hmm.
So, which is reasonable given that he's coming off the injury. I don't think you're gonna see him get more than 4 carries in this game.
3 carries and a reception. How about that?
That'd be fair.
4 touches for Javonte, and I like that plan.
Mhm.
There are some people, and I don't know. Listen, we're in camp mode, and we're in the trenches, so to speak. And I've just gotten so many questions, like, how do you say Javonte is going to be ready week 1? I know you have as well on Twitter, and I'm like, because I'm out here every day. Javonte is going to be ready week 1. I don't know why people aren't paying attention.
The question is, ready for what level of workload? I think
Right.
it's fair to say he's not ready for the bell cow level workload.
But even if he was 100%, Mace, Samaje isn't going anywhere. It's not like Samaje is some slappy. Like, you got 2 starters basically.
Mm-hmm. So it makes sense. And
it's just
they brought in P. Ryan so they could do this with Javonte Williams,
right,
and take their time and ease him back in. But yeah, he'll be out there with Russell Wilson in the offense. By the way, what do we say on the Russometer today? Is there a grade on the Russometer?
Ooh. How about this? Our Russometer here, presented by Phil Longford. How about just okay?
That's fine.
Is that fair? Is that good? We like it?
Well, there wasn't enough to get it to grade, although he had a really good period 7-on-7 that was competitive early on in practice.
Mm-hmm.
So
Russ didn't take this huge step back.
No.
Yesterday he was just so on fire, so we just have to look at it level headed. You're not going to expect fire again like that. Like,
it was a day.
It was a day. It
That's
was
fine.
a
There's nothing
solid
wrong
day.
with
Just
it.
okay day for Russ. It's fine. It's totally fine. Let's see how he does in the game. The plan for Javonte, though, get him those 4 touches, get him some snaps. He will be tackled to the ground.
Mhm.
So
On grass, at least.
how does his body respond? Mace, for me, honestly, it's Sunday. more important than Saturday.
How he wakes up. That's always
Yeah,
the test. When you have an injured player coming back, what kind of soreness do they have the following morning? And that's when you usually find out as to what happened and what was the impact. And we won't learn that until early next week. So,
yeah, we won't learn that until next week. Keith has a question about Faion Hicks. We haven't got a question about Faion Hicks. You need some of my Mountain Dew, by the way.
Thank you. Well, I had some iced tea. I just didn't bring it with me. My bad. Faion Hicks. Right now, it looks like he's tracking toward the practice squad.
Yes,
because Isang Bassi has really stepped it up as the backup slot corner.
He's gaining confidence.
With K'Wan Williams injured, he's gotten more snaps. We, of course, saw the interception he had last week against Arizona. Because of that, I think Hicks is trending toward being on the practice squad like last year.
And that's not a bad thing. And based on the new practice squad rules, Mace, I'm glad you can keep a guy like Hicks on the PS.
I am too.
It's a positive.
I think, and you keep developing him and you see where he goes. And look, with K'Wan Williams already dealing with an injury and Williams having a history of injuries in recent years, there's a good chance you'll see Isang Bassi start, which I think would mean eventually you're talking about Faion Hicks being on the roster. Right now, I think here's what I think could happen here. I could see a scenario where K'Wan Williams makes the 53 and then goes to injured reserve if he hasn't come all the way back immediately. And then you're talking about bringing Faion Hicks back, but you'd have to roll the dice on nobody claiming him.
Right.
I think the chances are good that he wouldn't be claimed. Remember, every team has guys that they think are going to be claimed, but rarely do. There actually are, percentage-wise, very few players who get claimed off of waivers. Very few.
But we do see it, and we see it in guys like Todd Davis, the linebacker Brandon Marshall. Like, there are times when, and it's my favorite job, Mace. People always ask me, like, why don't you work for a team other than consulting from time to time? And my answer is...
Hi, Bob.
I want to be a pro scout. If I was in scouting at all, it would be as the pro scout who watches everyone else's practice squad. Those are the guys.
Oh, honestly, like I remember, I think it was in 2017 when the Broncos were winding down a really bad season. They went 5-11. And I started saying, all right, start claiming guys off other practice squads, right? Or force the team to either promote them or bring them in. You know who one of the guys on my list was?
Who?
Mo Alley Cox.
Oh. Could have used Mo Alley Cox.
You'd still be using him to this day, I think.
I think he'd be your starter.
At tight end, I know.
I mean.
I'm just saying, but look, to me, if I'm running a team, I'm kind of churning the back end of the roster. And like you, I'd have somebody like you who always examine practice squads to say, okay, let's try to claim this guy. Let's try to claim that guy. Especially if your season is going askew, that's a luxury that you have.
Yes.
Okay. Players are going on injured reserve. All right. You got a guy with an expiring contract and we're going to say he has a hip pointer, right? Or, slight injury. Okay. But he's out for the year. Yeah.
He has a hip pointer.
Yeah. And then you go pluck someone off another team's practice squad.
Yeah, I don't know how many people know how often that happens where it's like, hey, you're hurt. No, I'm not. Yes, you are.
You have a strained hamstring.
But I'm fine. No, you're not.
Yeah.
You want a job? No, you're not. So it happens.
You have a contusion. That's
contusion. It sounds so serious. It's a bruise.
Yeah, that's my favorite one, like a contusion.
Right.
It's a bruise. I mean, you're not going to make it any worse by playing. Anyway.
Steve, the fish and chips are over here by me.
Oh, yeah.
He said Mace is not showing the fish and chips.
Oh, it's right here, right?
He's switched you up today.
Yes.
So we always have the fish and chips
today I'm
here.
showing you Ted Lasso. You can't really see it in the light, but that's my daughter painted a version of that, and we had it made into stickers and all that. So.
Now, stickers on laptop, cool. I have a Jordan one in the middle. I have smokingguncomics.com. It's my comic book company.
But I always
keep
them on the laptop case. Like I buy a case and
you buy the case and put them on there. Okay, so now I have to ask your opinion, and I'm totally judgy. You know this, Mace. I apologize. Thoughts on bumper stickers? Because I've always said you're allowed 2 bumper stickers.
I'm not a fan of bumper.
If you go over bumper stickers and you have that much to say, like you don't have to put it on your car.
I'm a fan of license plate holders. And I'm okay with some magnets. I'm not a fan of bumper stickers. Although the problem with magnets is anybody can pull them off. Like during the 2020 election, I had a couple of politically oriented magnets, and I came back to my car one day and they were gone. And
they were pulled off.
Yes.
And I would also say if you're
Douglas County, baby, that's all I'm gonna say.
Hey, wait a second, that's where I live.
Sorry.
All I would say is this, and if your homeboy loses, take the damn sticker off. Okay, like we don't need to. It's not my fault. Anyway,
hey, I'm sorry if you're still rocking a Hillary 2016 or a Trump 2020 bumper sticker. I don't mean to get political, but if the candidate loses, you got to move on.
Take it off. Take it off.
You gotta
Edward says, "How did number 13 do?"
Are we talking?
Got a little bit banged up. Yeah, not Delonte Hood, I would imagine.
Taylor Grimes
got a little bit banged up.
Yeah, I hope we still see him on Saturday.
Yeah. I was curious about that, and man alive, it's something to watch. I don't think it's serious. I saw him carrying off pads at the end of practice, so he was out there. But Taylor Grimes coming through for this team. We'll see. Whatever happens with him.
Yeah, we'll find out Saturday. Didn't seem serious, but you never know. I mean, have we seen PJ Locke even like on the sideline the last couple of days?
I have not seen it.
I have not seen him on the sideline.
Saw Brandon Johnson. They provide T-shirts for players with their number on it, and it's pretty cool.
Well, do you remember back in like the Mike Shanahan era, they would issue sweatshirts to players that were done in the same design as the uniform, so they had the contrasting side panel.
Really?
And they had the actual numbers sewn on there.
Wow.
Yes. Yeah. I thought it was so cool.
That would be a cool throwback.
Yeah. Like,
get your hands on one of those. Go to eBay.
Yeah. So like guys, when it was a no pad day, like it was a Friday practice, you'd see guys out in the sweatshirts that had the numbers on them. I thought that was incredibly sharp. I actually missed the practice jerseys being of a looser cut. It was Vic Fangio that made the change to everybody wearing the tighter jerseys for practice. I wish they'd go back to being looser again. But
But here we go.
Vic still echoes through things from time to time.
Yes, that's for sure.
It's that big Vic energy.
It is. Wide receivers, because we had a Brandon Johnson's not going to play.
Yeah. Cortland Sutton will play.
Bandy is making plays. Yeah. And as much as we love Grimes, and I do believe Grimes is better, he gets open easier. You cannot deny what Michael Bandy is doing.
Yeah.
Don't let Sean McVay see Michael Bandy.
He's trending. He's still trending toward the practice squad.
Yes.
I'd say both of them.
And he's safer of a stash than Taylor Grimes, although Taylor Grimes is trending toward the practice squad.
Although I'll tell you what, a guy who needs to make some plays on Saturday, Marquez Callaway. He's been.
Are you sure he doesn't have the Sean Payton pass? Are you sure?
I don't know.
It has been a little quiet. He did have a play yesterday, but like it's been a little quieter with Quez.
He hasn't. He hasn't distinguished himself in recent days.
His body language is that of someone who knows he's making the team. Am I wrong in that? You and I've talked to him. We've been around him.
Body language can deceive a little bit.
He's given like when I was talking to Adam Troutman, he came over. He's like, "Hey, hit me up about that rash." Just teasing him. But he's done that a few times.
But he's also at the top of the depth chart.
He asked Cortland a question at the presser. So Quez isn't acting like I'm on the bubble.
Yeah. We'll see. I mean, I just haven't seen it yet. Okay. And I think part of it is I want to see if he goes out there. Who's
been doing more than maybe a little Jordan, or like who would be that other Marvin Mims?
Little Jordan,
on the come up.
Little Jordan Humphrey is interesting because of the special teams role as well. He can fit a specific role in that phase of the game. But you see Jalen Virgil making plays on a daily basis now. So
he made another one today.
Yeah, Jalen's making it interesting, and that's why with Virgil appearing to emerge, I think that's why it's worth talking about. Okay, does Callaway stick on the roster? Montreal Washington right now, he had a really nice play yesterday from Ben DiNucci, that catch near the sideline.
Yeah.
It's looking pretty tight over there.
It is. It's looking pretty tight over there. The winning mindset. As we wrap up today's program, Mace, one thing that Coach Payton talked about today is finding those players with the winning mindset. And I think that goes into preseason evaluation. And when DMAC asked him, and I'm so glad Sean Payton didn't give us the coach speak, because the coach speak would have been, so winning a preseason game matters then. DMAC asked him. Sean Payton was like, yes, it does.
Yep. That's where he said it's a mindset.
We all would have felt better if they'd beaten the Cardinals.
hey, it would have been nice to talk about 1-0 instead of 0-1.
Right. And the way it
Yeah.
ended to the last second and it was a run, like, come on. So I'm glad Sean Payton was very honest with that question, but developing that winning mindset. Hell yeah, you want to beat the 49ers.
Mm-hmm. And I think it'll say a little something if you do beat the 49ers, although they may not have their starters in. But it's a talented roster. Like, they've got plenty of second teamers who would start on other teams. It's a deep roster that the 49ers possess. That's the reason why they've been able to go to back-to-back NFC championship games despite oodles of injuries, despite quarterback instability. It's because they have a quality deep roster. John Lynch drafts very well. Does a good job of acquiring undrafted players, does a good job of finding scrap heap guys. Because of that, you're going to see a talented bunch out there.
Yeah.
On Saturday.
This
even
is if you were to pick a second preseason game of their three opponents, easily you would say, I want to face my starters against the 49ers. That's the most significant opponent you face all preseason.
Well, it's not the greatest division in the world, the NFC West, but what does it say about the talent of this team that the quarterback position has a huge question mark affixed to it? Brock Purdy working his way back from elbow ligament injury. Sam Darnold, perpetual question mark. Trey Lance, where is he going to go? Despite trying to figure this out at the most important position, they are the overwhelming favorite to win that division, no matter who the quarterback is.
Right.
Now, some of that is because the Rams have fallen off badly. The Cardinals are in rebuilding mode. And the Seahawks, I'm not sure anyone, even after last year, trusts Geno Smith just yet.
Right.
But, the Niners have a talented bunch.
Because you brought it up, and you will probably scold me after the show for doing this.
Oh, boy.
But we have a troll in the chat room, everybody. Seahawks says Seahawks are better than Broncos. Seahawks fans, please don't be so ugly. Okay? Like, again,
Hey,
I've heard
they were a playoff team last year. The Broncos weren't, of course.
What are you worrying about? Why are you still watching Russ? Like, get over the ex. Again, I've told the story on air. I got a buddy of mine who talks about his ex-wife. They've been divorced for like 10 years. Dude, I'm sorry that was so hurtful to you, but like, let it go. Seahawks fans, you're looking asinine. I'll clean it up for podcasts as much as I can, but let it go. You guys made the playoffs. Why are you bagging? We're better than the Broncos.
Okay.
Yeah, whatever, dude. Come on.
If they're still obsessed with Russell Wilson and everything involved with that, I mean, they're basically Walter Sobchak in The Big Lebowski, right? Still obsessing and talking about his ex. I mean, still,
yeah.
Anyway, that's what they are. I mean, and Seahawks fans are about as loud and bellicose as Walter is as well.
Oh,
as a collective, I would say. It just seems that way. The 12s turn it up to 11 when it comes to the noise.
That's right.
Another 1980s, 90s film reference there.
Yeah, Spinal Tap.
We don't work Spinal Tap in enough.
I know.
Because there is such a thin line between stupid and clever.
There's a thin line between, I don't know. How am I going to finish that?
There's a thin line between the Broncos and the Raiders. There's a thin line between love and hate. There's a thin line between some guys who are going to be on this roster and those who are not.
It's a very good way to end this program. It's Orange and Blue today. We're presented by Sean Honda. He's Andrew Mason. Follow him at Mace Denver. I am at Cecil Lammey, and we appreciate you all for helping to grow the YouTube channel. Like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell so that you never miss a vid. And if you've commented in the chat room, yes, even you, Seattle fan, leave a comment down below. It helps the YouTube algorithm, and we appreciate that as well. He's Mace. I'm Cease. OBT is a BFD, and we appreciate you all. So thank you very much. Be safe. Be kind. Know you're appreciated. Stay tuned, and please stay frosty.